This is the Final Word T20 World Cup Daily, Day 13. Jeff Lemon with a cricket correspondent from the Press Association, Rory Dollard, coming to you from Antigua. The show is brought to you by Westfield London, Westfield Stratford City. Rory, today was Oman versus England. First of all, please tell me about the game in the space of 30 seconds.
Okay, so to do 30 seconds, I'll have to leave some of the game out because it was a 30-second game, give or take. England won the toss. They bowled too quick for Oman. Rashid spun it too far for Oman. They caught too well for Oman. They had one scorer into double figures. Nothing else apart from that to write home about. England had an equation to beat 5.2 overs to get the runs and overturn Scotland's net run rate. They did it. They did it in a fun time. Jack's hit a four got out, so I shouldn't have mentioned him. Phil Salt hit 2 sixes to start the innings, and England walked it. All happy. What were you worried about?
It was, the last few days of just everybody preaching and steaming about, Josh Hazlewood said this, and it might come down to that. I did have a feeling at the time, a sort of guilty satisfaction, that I was like, we've got to enjoy this sort of shithousery possibility because it probably won't be required. It probably won't come down to that because England should beat these teams by enough to overturn that margin. But I didn't expect it to be as drastic as today. Like, Scotland needed the other associates to do a favour, Oman and Namibia, and then it just didn't end up happening.
Yeah, first of all, I don't want to get too deep into how the sausage gets made on tour as a journalist, but when you have 3 days to preview Oman, Josh Hazlewood has just got up in my estimations unbelievably, because he gave us a day and a half of easy copy. Let's get the Ashes rivals gunning at each other. Let's talk about trolling. Let's get a little bit of the ICC's code of conduct. Let's get that out and get clause 2.11. And, it's all good stuff. So listen, thank you, Josh Hazlewood, first and foremost, from the bottom of my heart. We all appreciate your service. But, it struck me that England shouldn't be allowing themselves to worry about being manipulated out of this group. They did get a rain off against Scotland. And actually, maybe what we saw today gives a bit of credence to their claims that they would have chased down those runs against Scotland quite easily. I wasn't sure about that. I thought that was a pretty stiff target. They always said they were super confident that 109 in 10 overs was really, really doable for them. And we saw today they've got that power in the bank. So England didn't have to worry about being manipulated. They had to worry about getting their job done on their side of the business taken care of. Today they did it.
I think they would have found, so in that Scotland game, they would have been up against a Scotland side that were buzzing and that would have been really confident as well. Whereas today they were batting against an Oman side that were flat. They'd just been absolutely monstered. If you look at the scorecard, you might think, it was pace. They blew them away with pace with Archer and Wood, and then Archer and Wood taking the early wickets, but it wasn't like snorters at the face. It was more trying to play sort of cross-batted shots, not reading the timing out of this pitch. There were a lot of low catches. The first one gets slammed to Phil Salt, low at cover. There's Will Jacks taking one very low at backward point. There's Moeen Ali dropping one off Archer very low to the ground at slip. There's Wood, the cordon bolts, that lobs back to him, that's also very low. It was one of those strange surfaces where it wasn't that easy to time the ball. If you were Oman, it looked pretty easy when you were Joss Butler chasing 40 in 3 overs.
Sure, listen, I think England did pick the right attack. They were right to stick with the pace. It hasn't worked spectacularly well thus far. They talked about Matthew Mott talked about making a statement with pace. And I don't know you can make a statement against Australia with pace. I don't know that's how you do it. And so they might have, and I think if they were in India last year at the 50-over World Cup, they may well have overcorrected and taken Hot Wood out of their team, because they did that last time. They went loads of all-rounders in India, ditched them all at once. Four of them went out of the team at once. This time, I think they just held their nerve a little bit. They realised that pace against Oman was going to be the order of the day. In the press conference after the Oman captain admitted as much, he said, we don't face 140, never mind 145, and it was just a little bit beyond them. It's not something you can focus your way into. You need a bit of practice. And Archer, particularly, I thought, has given another good sign today. We've seen him in the other matches. He started to roll his fingers around a few and take pace off, ball a few cutters. Today, we saw that awkward bounce where he bowls a sort of a hard length. It gets up, and the first 2 wickets, the guys just failed to understand how their shot needed to happen to not get out.
Yeah, it was so high on the bat.
Yeah, and they didn't get under it. They didn't get over it. So it's like the three bears. The three bears. It was the porridge and the thing like that. So listen, Archer's tracking really well, and I think the further we go into this competition, we'll probably discuss how far England down there and go. But Archer is super important, and he doesn't get any less important.
So the first 4 to Wood and Archer, then Rashid starts getting into the mix. He cleans up a couple of the tail enders with googlies. So you got right-handers who've got no idea how to face the ball. Turning back in, knocks them over, gets one caught at slip as well. Quite a proper leg spinning display. So turning it wide outside the off stump and then getting the wrongers to go back in. He finishes with 4 for 11.
Never had a 5 foot? Adil's never had a 5 foot?
No, I think his best figures was 3.
4 for 2. 4 for 2. Okay. So I thought today he had 1 ball to get his 5 foot. And honestly, he was odds on. I don't know how he didn't get a wicket the way he was bowling.
But Reece Topley doesn't get in the wicket column, but I thought he actually set it up. He's the one who started it because they brought him into this team. There's been a lot of talk about the fact that they should have the left arm angle. They finally bit the bullet, left out Chris Jordan, and had Topley in, and he strangles him his first 2 overs. He's beaten the edge sliding across, he's swinging the ball back in, they can't get a run off him, and he sets the tone of making it feel claustrophobic even before the first wicket falls.
Yeah, Topley bowled really well. I think most people would have pegged him for maybe that first game, if not the second game against Australia, with a bit, as I say, pace isn't necessarily the way to go. They do have a little decision to make, because against the associates perhaps, and against Namibia I would expect Wood and Archer to go again, but Jordan is not out in the thinking, I don't suppose, because Topley bowled 3 overs right up top in the power play. Jordan's more focused on the death. They like his batting a little more, because the tail maybe in a real crunch game, the tail one too many.
Yeah.
So
and he's not tail, he's top of the tail.
Yeah, sure. So Jordan actually, part of the selection was that he's levelled up his batting a little bit in the last 18 months or so. So, it's not a done deal, and England have a couple of ticklish decisions with selection, and they haven't, spoiler alert, they haven't always made the right decision with them at a ticklish one. So let's see how that one plays.
So, yeah, the chase was not much of a chase. Phil Salt 12 off 3 balls, Butler 24 off 8, not out. Will Jacks 5 off 7, boo, strike rate of 71, get out. And Bairstow came in and made 8 off 2 balls. So they chased it. Well, they made 50 in 3.1 overs. So what that does in terms of net run rate, it means that because Oman got bowled out, their score is stretched across a full 20 overs. Thus, very low, what's that, 2.5 an over. And they're being credited with, while England are being credited with, about 17 and over. So that is a big enough gap that they made up all the gap to Scotland and then some, and they're in a great position, because if this all gets a bit kind of difficult for my maths brain, but if Scotland beat Australia, they go through. That's simple. If they don't beat Australia, the very best result they could have in net run rate terms would be a tie, and they lose in the super over. If they get that, it depends how high the score is as well. That will affect ultimately Scotland's net run rate.
Can I stop you? I don't think we're going to need it.
We're probably not going to need it. All I'm saying is if England, so there is a window in which England could beat Namibia, Scotland could lose to Australia, and Scotland would still go through. But it would need England to beat Namibia by chasing no more than 100 and taking the full 20 overs to do it. And it would need Scotland to at least tie with Australia while having made at least 213.
I am going to go back and listen to this part of the podcast if England get close to that last game, because I'm not currently entertaining it as a realistic thing. England need to win. England need to win. It's something that hasn't happened since 1983 has to happen to Australia. They've got to lose to a non-test playing nation. England have done a huge benefit to themselves for taking the pressure off in that Namibia game, because misery loves company, right? England was starting to feel a bit miserable, and that if you could see a team getting themselves into a bind and needing to beat maybe by 50 or 60 or something, you could just begin to see the route for that happening. What they've done is they've taken it out of the ballpark by a huge amount. They overperformed. Listen, it was a mismatch in terms of cricketing culture, cricketing history, resources, finances, structure.
But they had to make good on the mismatch,
and they did it.
That's what we've seen through this World Cup, is that most teams haven't been able to, because the surfaces have brought teams closer together, because we've seen lower ranked teams performing over the odds, and there have been some close results that we wouldn't have been expecting.
Yeah, I think England naturally, listen, they got unlucky with the weather, they got unlucky with one or two things. This game being in Antigua, I think, was a real tick in their box, because some of those stodgy pitches where say you're on a pitch that 130 is a winning score, you don't make that big a change to your run rate. You beat the team you're supposed to beat, but the numbers all a bit compressed, it tightens things up. They got a pitch the ground, dimensions, weather conditions, where they could go and hammer them. And fair play to them, they went and did it.
Yeah, and you've also got to have the confidence that you can go after it without the worry that you'll get yourself into trouble. Because if it's 130 on that New York pitch and you go out all guns blazing, well, there's a potential that you put yourself in a hole, you don't even win the game.
Yeah, so listen, England needed a reset. Because, as I said, they felt like the clowns were gathering. And quite a lot of this squad were there in India. And I have lost count of the number of times they have told us that India's gone, the book's closed. It's not. It never is. That isn't how it works. You need to feel the good stuff again. And England today have every reason to sit back and feel a bit of the good stuff and remind themselves, and remind everyone else on whatever island they're dotted around here watching the scores come in, that this is a proper team. And it's a team that you could maybe lose to when it gets a bit tighter later on.
It's a team you don't want in the Super 8. So, Australia chucking the game against Scotland, that's coming up.
Oh, listen, right, the other thing is, back to Josh, back to the half. Good on you, mate. Because I think there's a possibility that we get to a point where the whole thing opens up. England play Australia later in the competition, and Josh Hazelwood is asked to answer for the fact that he said, we might be a bit scared of England. We don't want to play them, let's get them out. And it's just another thing that I don't know if, as an Australian, you want to show that vulnerable side. It was almost... Yeah, it's almost a show of respect to England that we might want to play a little game and get you out here. So if these two teams meet up again later, don't be surprised if that one gets thrown back at them.
Yeah, back in the day, you might have said, we don't care. They can qualify, they can not qualify.
Yeah,
Who cares?
We'll beat them every time we play them. But yeah, so I almost say we said we haven't got a great record against England in T20. We might be in our best interest to knock them out. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean it's not right. I think it's 11-11. So they're
recently it tips England, I think 6 out of 7 or something.
Yeah, I mean, England have had that focus, and Australia's T20 play has often been odd. All right, quick break. We've got a few other games that have previously happened to look at. We'll be back next. It's the final word. It's brought to you by Westfield London, Westfield Stratford City. The new copy is through. It reads as follows. If you had a time machine, what would you do? Would you go back to watch the Don peel off 300 in a day at Leeds? Or see Malcolm Marshall tear through England with a broken arm, or almost have sex with your mum before your dad, who looks a bit like Jason Berendorf, punches the school bully, and you invent rock and roll music? I'm not going to ask you to take a choice.
It's not ABC. I'm going to see Springsteen 75.
Nice, okay. You can't do any of that at Westfield Stratford City, but you can journey back in time to walk among the dinosaurs and experience life millions of years ago. Eclipso is the home of incredible immersive experiences, including Life Chronicles, which is a VR journey through a land before time, though not specifically the land before time. Westfield Stratford City, the best dinosaur experience since Billy and the Clonosaurus. You have young children. You would take them to a dinosaur exhibit, wouldn't you?
I would. I will. I'm committing right now to doing it, because if they hear this, they'll be all over it. Yeah, kid. We love dinosaurs. Mermaids, dinosaurs, unicorns, all things that have an overweighted significance in the life of young kids to what they're going to prefer in their adult life.
All potentially Major League Cricket teams in the next couple of years.
And pirates. They're things you spend a lot of time reading about, and then they never come to pass in your life.
We've got Pittsburgh Pirates, we've got San Francisco Unicorns. We just need the mermaids and the dinosaurs. Right.
Watch this space with 100.
Well, we've got to expand it. You've got to make more teams to sell. So the Sri Lanka-Nepal game we forgot to mention the other day because it got washed out, but it did have the ramification that Sri Lanka is officially out and Nepal's officially out of the tournament. The Dutch could still qualify by beating Sri Lanka if Nepal beat Bangladesh, but that's probably not going to happen. The Dutch lost to Bangladesh narrowly. That was also happening today. That was in St. Vincent. Bangladesh made 159, which ended up being plenty. Shakib Al Hassan, the bad boy of Bangladesh cricket, rode up on his motorbike, flicked his hair back, and got back into form, made 64 not from 46 balls. Mahmudullah 25 at the end, Tanzid Hassan 35 opening up, and the Dutch couldn't quite do it. They gave it a crack, but they ended up about 25 short. They made 134. Haven't been able to get a read on Bangladesh at all in this tournament. They've scrapped, but they've at least notched enough points to progress.
Yeah, Bangladesh in 2024. Read Bangladesh any year that I can remember. They're not quite there where you think they should be, but Shakib will get them out of the hole once in a while. Yeah. It doesn't feel like the narrative has progressed dramatically there, but if you get them on the right pitch over here, they could be tricky, but I've seen nothing that makes it think they're going to be a huge story.
Well, they benefited from Sri Lanka bottoming out hard. Sri Lanka are at the bottom of Group D and are officially eliminated. South Africa have officially qualified. Bangladesh is sitting in second. We've got one qualifier from each group. Australia, India, and then the West Indies also qualified because they beat New Zealand, which is another big result. New Zealand is still on the bottom of Group C. They haven't won a game. They're in the group with Papua New Guinea and Uganda, and they're still behind those two because they're down the bottom with a negative 2.4 run rate. They got annihilated by Afghanistan, and then they should have won this game against West Indies, really. They were well on top. They were 5 for 30. They had West Indies, and they're 7 for 70 odd. West Indies come back and make 149 in the end, which they shouldn't have got anywhere near. And Sheffield Rutherford smoked 60, and then they just held New Zealand, didn't even bowl them out. It ended up being 9 down for 136? No, 136 for 9. Gudakesh Moti and Akil Hussain spinning them, took the early wickets, and then Alzari Joseph cleans up at the end of 4 for 19. But it was that spin suffocation. Makes New Zealand team look distinctly ordinary all of a sudden.
It's just looks like the end of the cycle for this team. It's I know they've freshened up a little bit in places, but if you're looking for this team to go win matches, you're looking at the same old names.
Yeah, but they're like, the freshening up is like, you just got dumped, and then you're like, you say to your ex, like, oh, hey, look, I've taken up going to the gym, and you start like posting Instagram.
Taking up paddle.
Yeah, you start doing Instagram shots from the gym, going, yeah, getting fit, but you actually only went 3 times. Yeah. That's like New Zealand picking Finn Allen. They're like, look, we've got a young player. He's young. Yeah. He's at the top. He's an opener. But then everybody else is this.
And I think, listen, we spent a long time as cricket fans fretting over the West Indies or fretting over South Africa, what's going to happen to them. New Zealand have had some outstanding cricketers who have held them up across formats for a decade plus. They're all aging out at the same time, and replacing them is going to be a hell of an ask. And I think it's a fair question because they are an all-format team. They don't have the luxury of spreading people out across the different formats. It's a fair question to ask if we need to start worrying about New Zealand.
It was a group effort with the Bolton Neesham takes wickets, Bolt takes wickets, Southey and Ferguson, Santner, all involved as they get New Zealand down they get West Indies down to that 7 for 70 sort of position, but then they get smacked at the end. Kane Williamson front loads his bowlers. He has to bring the dazzler, the sweatiest man alive, Daryl Mitchell, to bowl the 9 over. He gets sacked. Santner bowls 20th and gets sacked. And I don't know. Like you say, you look through that line of there are these stalwart players, but they're all in a similar vintage. Where are we going?
Yeah, well, this is why actually it was on the flip side, the West Indies, for them to be winning the game with Rutherford and Moti coming in and getting the job done. That's the encouragement for them because actually they've got a few all-timers and a few names who've been sort of journeymen of the franchise world for quite a long time.
Still is wheeling Andre Russell out.
Yeah, right. He's exactly what I'm thinking about. Yeah, precisely him.
And doing something like he comes in, he sacks 14 off 7 balls. It's not a huge score, but in the context of pushing them up to something competitive, that's the difference. New Zealand lose by 13, he makes 14.
He's also got outstanding residual PR.
Yeah.
Because I was in a bar watching. You'll maybe remember which game it was earlier when Ruston Chase. Maybe it was the first game of their tournament.
Yeah.
Ruston Chase got a bunch of runs, but Russell was at
PNG.
Russell was at the crease. He came out to bat, and the guy next to him went, "I knew Russell would do it." And he barely hit one. But there's a residual muscle memory that when he stomps out to the crease, looking like a WWE guy who's sort of going to the ring, like people just think, "Oh yeah, Andre Russell, ball's going to start disappearing." And actually, poor Ruston Chase was sending it out the ground, and everyone in the bar was cheering as Dre Russ did his thing from the non-strikers end.
It was PNG. It was when they when they were up and about there. He really reminds me of, I don't know if you've seen the newish Godzilla -1.
Right.
Just like it's sort of World War II era in Japanese Godzilla, but he's got these very broad shoulders and a distinct mohawk kind of situation. And he really does resemble Andre Russell destroying Tokyo.
Yes, well, I've no doubt in a franchise league somewhere coming soon to a screen near you, Andre Russell will score big runs against Tokyo. I don't doubt it.
When Andre Russell's playing for the Kobe Dinosaurs, go the mains, he will tear Tokyo apart. Right, Hall of Fame, got anything that caught your eye over today or over the last couple of days, something you enjoyed?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Scotland and their willingness to engage in the trolling of Josh Hazlewood. They put out a training shot on their Twitter feed and they said, looking after our best interests in St. Lucia, which I liked. And I interviewed Michael Jones, the opener, who rather than playing the ultra pro media trained, just take it one game at a time and all that, he said, loved all that chat from Hazelwood. Please open the bowling with David Warner. So loving Scotland's work.
He almost took a wicket with his first ball in Test cricket that one on league break.
Red ball specialist, clearly, yeah.
Had a catch dropped out at the mid wicket. People forget that. Some don't. It's nailed away in there. I think I just like Phil Salt playing the perfect T20 innings. So the perfect dismissed T20 innings.
Yep.
Obviously, the perfect innings is the 6 every ball or not out. But if you're going to get out, make sure you hit a 6 every ball before that. 6, chopped on, 12 or 3.
12 brackets 3. That is the kind of thing where sometimes you need to see an innings to know. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the scoreboard will tell you everything you need to know. Phil Salt against Oman, 12 brackets 3. If you didn't see it, yes, you did.
Yes, you did. You just don't know that they were over cover. That's the only thing you don't know. All right, very good. That's enough from us. This has been the final word. T20 World Cup Daily, day 13. Thanks, Rory, for joining the show.
Thank you. I've enjoyed sitting in Adam's seat. Keep it warm for him.
There we go. And we'll be back on day 14. That's how a daily show works. See you next time.